History, as we know it, is an incomplete manuscript. We are about to uncover 25 astonishing archaeological finds that suggest a forgotten age of exploration, one where ancient travelers connected our world long before the history books say it was possible. By the end of this journey, you will see the entire map of human history redrawn, revealing a past filled with transoceanic voyages and technological wonders that defy our timelines. We will examine a 2,000-year-old device considered the world's first computer and investigate why traces of American plants were found in ancient Egyptian tombs. This evidence forces us to ask a profound question about our shared past. What does it truly mean to be the first? The mechanism itself is a ghost, a whisper from a past that may have been far more capable than we have ever allowed ourselves to believe. It suggests a culture of explorers and scientists who viewed the heavens as a map. This level of technical prowess makes the idea of ancient, long-distance sea voyages not just a romantic notion, but a distinct and plausible reality. The mystery only deepens when we consider where such a ship might have been headed, and what other evidence of these journeys might be waiting to be found, perhaps even on distant shores. That single artifact, a ghost of advanced engineering, suggests a world far more connected than we knew. And if a ship could carry such a device, what else might it have carried, perhaps even a map of its journeys? Our second discovery is a document shrouded in just as much mystery, the Vinland Map. This piece of aged parchment purports to be a 15th century depiction of the world, showing the familiar outlines of Europe and Africa. But it also shows something that, according to conventional history, should not be there. In the distant west, a vast landmass is clearly labeled Vinland, a name drawn directly from the Norse sagas describing Leif Erikson's expeditions to North America. If this map is authentic, it would mean that a detailed geographic knowledge of the New World was not only possessed by Scandinavian explorers, but was also being recorded for others, potentially predating the famous voyage of Christopher Columbus by decades. The debate surrounding the map's authenticity is a deep and complex puzzle in itself. Scientific analysis has produced conflicting results. Carbon dating of the parchment places it in the correct medieval period, yet studies of the ink's composition have fueled endless discussions among scholars. This very controversy highlights a crucial point. The idea of pre-Columbian transatlantic contact is no longer a fringe theory, but a serious historical question demanding investigation. The map aligns perfectly with the sagas, which tell of Norse settlers building temporary homes in a land of wild grapes and forests. It suggests a forgotten network of seafaring routes, a brief but real age of Norse exploration across the Atlantic that was later lost to European memory. What other charts and documents might have existed, only to be lost to time or still waiting in some forgotten library vault? Our search for answers now moves from the fragile medium of parchment to something far more enduring, as we examine clues not drawn with ink, but carved directly into ancient stone. Standing in a quiet park in Newport, Rhode Island, is a circular stone tower that seems to belong to another time and place. Its rugged construction and mysterious origins have sparked debates for centuries. Is it a simple colonial windmill, as some insist, or is it something far older, a silent sentinel from a forgotten age of exploration? The architecture tells a compelling story. Its design, with its 8 rounded pillars and a fireplace set in an unusual style, does not match typical English colonial buildings. Instead, it bears a striking resemblance to medieval European structures, particularly round churches and defensive towers built by Norse settlers or the Knights Templar. The composition of the mortar used in its construction has been analyzed, with some studies suggesting a formulation common in the 14th or 15th century, long before the official founding of Newport. Even the alignments of its windows hint at a possible astronomical purpose, perhaps for observing the stars to mark the changing seasons or for navigation. This has led researchers to propose that the tower was not a solitary anomaly, but perhaps part of a larger, organized effort by European explorers. Could it have been an outpost for the Knights Templar, a group shrouded in mystery who some believe fled persecution by sailing across the Atlantic? Or was it a navigational aid built by Portuguese explorers charting the New England coast decades before Columbus? Excavations around the foundation have unearthed artifacts that add to the enigma, including tools and items that do not fit neatly into either Native American or later colonial context. These physical clues suggest a temporary but purposeful settlement, a group of people who built something to last, only to vanish from the historical record. The Newport Tower stands as a stubborn physical question, challenging the timeline we have so carefully constructed. It forces us to wonder how many other structures were built by visitors from across the sea, their stories lost to time, their buildings mistaken for later works. This idea of transoceanic connection becomes even more tangible when we look at the very materials ancient people used, for some artifacts suggest a trade in goods that spanned the entire globe. Perhaps the most direct evidence for these ancient connections comes not from stone or parchment, but from the human body itself. Scientific analysis of Egyptian mummies has yielded a result so unexpected it continues to divide the scientific community. Traces of nicotine and cocaine have been found within the tissues and hair of these carefully preserved individuals. These are substances that, according to everything we know, should not have existed in the ancient Old World. Both tobacco and coca plants are native solely to the Americas, and they were not introduced to Europe and Africa until after the voyages of Columbus. The presence of these compounds within sealed, authenticated remains suggests a startling possibility. It implies that these plants, or their products, were somehow being transported across the vast Atlantic Ocean centuries, perhaps even millennia before any known contact. This finding forces us to confront a profound mystery. How could this have happened? Some researchers propose a chain of transoceanic trade, where goods were passed from one culture to another across great distances, perhaps through a series of intermediary explorers we have yet to identify. Others dare to suggest the possibility of direct, purposeful voyages between ancient Egypt and the civilizations of the Americas. Could Egyptian ships have sailed west, or could seafarers from the Americas have journeyed east, carrying with them these powerful and sacred plants? Of course, skeptics offer alternative explanations, pointing to the risk of modern contamination or the potential for misidentification. Yet the evidence remains, a stubborn biological clue that refuses to be easily dismissed. It invites us to fundamentally reconsider the isolation of ancient civilizations. The world of antiquity may have been a far more interconnected place than our textbooks describe, woven together by threads of exchange we are only just beginning to detect. This revelation prompts a deeper question. What other secrets are locked within the biological remains of the past, waiting for the right technology to reveal them? Our search for these lost connections now pulls us from the dry deserts of Egypt toward a legendary city swallowed by a South American jungle. Beneath the waves of the Mediterranean, near the modern coast of Egypt, lies a city that was once only a legend. Heracleion, known as Thonis to its ancient Egyptian inhabitants, was a grand port city that vanished beneath the sea over 1,000 years ago. Its rediscovery by underwater archaeologists revealed not just a myth made real, but a vital hub in a vast and sophisticated maritime network. The city's ruins, preserved in an incredible state by the sand and water, offer a frozen moment in time from the 8th century before the Common Era. Here, among the crumbling temples and silent streets, divers have recovered a stunning collection of artifacts. Giant statues of Egyptian pharaohs stand beside finely crafted Greek pottery. Gold coins and the decaying hulls of ancient shipwrecks litter the harbor floor, each one a testament to the city's role as a bustling crossroads of trade and culture. This was more than just a local port. It was a central gateway where the ancient world connected. The sheer volume and variety of goods passing through its docks indicate that the sailors of Heracleion were part of a web of long-distance exploration, their voyages likely extending beyond the known boundaries of the Mediterranean, perhaps even past the Pillars of Hercules into the vast, open Atlantic. The presence of foreign materials and unusual artifacts hints at trade goods sourced from lands far beyond any recorded routes. This suggests that the city's merchants and explorers had access to knowledge of distant shores, information that was lost when the city itself was lost. The submersion of Heracleion, likely caused by an earthquake or other seismic event, created a perfect time capsule. It captured a snapshot of a thriving age of maritime exploration, an age whose full scope we are only beginning to appreciate. Its discovery forces us to ask how many other legendary ports now sleep beneath the waves, their stories and maps erased by rising waters or shifting land. What other gateways to forgotten expeditions are waiting to be found? Our search for these lost connections now takes us from a sunken city to a series of mysterious markings carved into stone across the globe. Deep in a Tennessee burial mound in the late 19th century, workers unearthed a small stone slab that would become one of America's most contentious archaeological puzzles. Known as the Bat Creek Inscription, this stone bears a series of carefully carved characters that, to some experts, bear a striking resemblance to an ancient form of Hebrew writing used in the Mediterranean world over 2,000 years ago. If this interpretation is correct, it would suggest that individuals familiar with this script were present in the heart of North America centuries before the voyages of Columbus. The context of the find is as mysterious as the inscription itself. It was discovered in a carefully arranged memorial site alongside other artifacts, leading researchers to believe it was a deliberate placement, not a random loss. This has fueled a profound debate that continues to this day. Could it be evidence of a small group of Mediterranean travelers, perhaps Jewish merchants or Roman-era explorers, who managed to cross the Atlantic and integrate, however briefly, with the local communities they encountered? The possibility reconfigures our entire understanding of ancient mobility. Mainstream archaeology has long been skeptical, with many scholars arguing the inscription is a modern hoax or a misinterpretation of local symbols. Yet, more recent scientific examinations have complicated this simple dismissal. Advanced imaging and material analysis have not been able to definitively prove it a fraud, leaving the door open for continued speculation. This single stone forces us to confront a difficult question. If this is a genuine artifact from a forgotten voyage, how many other linguistic clues have we overlooked or misidentified? It suggests that the story of America is not a simple narrative of isolation followed by discovery, but a far more complex tapestry, potentially woven with threads from across the oceans. This idea of lost knowledge takes on a truly breathtaking dimension as we travel from the forests of Tennessee to the high peaks of South America, where an ancient artifact seems to depict a technology that should not have existed. High in the mountains of Colombia, a collection of small gold objects from the ancient Quimbaya civilization presents a mystery that seems to defy time. Crafted around 1,000 years ago, these intricate figurines are officially described as stylized representations of birds, insects, or other local fauna. But to the modern eye, their forms are startlingly familiar. Many feature distinct delta wings, upright tail fins, and streamlined fuselages, looking less like living creatures and more like meticulously designed models of advanced aircraft. The precision of their shapes, with clear aerodynamic considerations, has led some researchers to question if they are merely artistic interpretations of nature. Could they instead be symbolic representations of something else entirely, something technological? The idea that these artifacts might depict flying machines pushes against the conventional narrative of pre-Columbian isolation. It invites a profound question about the nature of inspiration. Did these ancient artisans possess an extraordinary imaginative vision, allowing them to conceive of forms that would not be realized for a millennium? Or is it possible, as some theorists suggest, that their designs were influenced by observations of real flight, perhaps from contact with explorers from a distant and technologically sophisticated culture? This does not diminish the incredible skill of the Quimbaya people, but rather opens a door to a more interconnected ancient world. Perhaps these gold objects are not proof of local aircraft, but a cultural memory, a lingering echo of something witnessed and then translated into sacred art. They challenge our most basic assumptions about innovation, suggesting that the spark of a technological idea might be gifted from one culture to another across vast oceans and then lost for centuries. The Quimbaya artifacts ask us to look at the past not as a series of isolated events, but as a tapestry of shared possibilities, where knowledge could travel in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. As we consider these golden forms that seem to capture the very essence of flight, our search for lost connections naturally drifts upward, from earthly artifacts to the celestial patterns that guided ancient explorers across the globe. One of history's most tantalizing cartographic puzzles was drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. His world map is a breathtaking document, celebrated for its startlingly accurate depiction of the eastern coast of South America. Yet, its most controversial feature lies far to the south, a landmass that many researchers believe represents the northern coastline of Antarctica, shown not under a mile-thick sheet of ice, but as a green and seemingly habitable territory. This detail is geologically perplexing, as the last time Antarctica was ice-free was millions of years before the rise of human civilization. So how could a 16th-century mapmaker have known this? The answer may lie not in the map itself, but in its sources. In his own annotations, Piri Reis openly states that he compiled his work from a collection of older charts, some of which he claimed dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. He was not the original explorer, but rather a librarian of lost knowledge, piecing together a world picture from the fragments of much older voyages. This suggests that ancient seafarers, belonging to civilizations now lost to memory, possessed the skill and the courage to map the entire globe, their charts passed down and copied for centuries before finally being incorporated into this single, enigmatic document. The idea that advanced geographic knowledge was preserved and then forgotten forces us to reconsider the entire timeline of exploration. It implies a pre-classical age of discovery, a period when the world's oceans were highways, not barriers. The Piri Reis Map stands as a ghostly echo of that forgotten era, a palimpsest where the faint lines of an ancient world can still be seen beneath the ink of a more recent one. What other cartographic treasures, once thought to be mere legend, might be waiting in dusty archive vaults or sealed royal libraries? Our path now leads from the parchment of a Turkish admiral to a remote island in the vast Pacific, where giant stone statues stand guard over untold stories. Far out in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the monolithic moai of Easter Island stand as silent, brooding sentinels. Yet these colossal stone figures are only part of a much deeper mystery. The true secret of Rapa Nui may lie in small, intricately carved wooden tablets known as Rongorongo. These artifacts are covered in a unique system of glyphs, a written language that has stubbornly resisted all attempts at translation. The symbols, a mix of human figures, animals, and geometric shapes, are unlike any other script in the world. Were these tablets sacred religious texts, or do they record something more tangible, like the epic sea voyages that brought the first people to this most isolated of islands? The very existence of a written script suggests a society with a complex history to preserve, one that likely included celestial navigation charts and stories of crossing thousands of miles of open ocean. This narrative of long-distance exploration is supported by a humble plant. The sweet potato, a crop native to South America, was being cultivated on Easter Island long before European contact. How did it get there? The most plausible explanation is that Polynesian voyagers, the greatest navigators of the ancient world, reached the shores of South America and returned with this vital food source. Modern genetic studies add weight to this idea, revealing a faint but clear prehistoric contact between Polynesian and Native American populations. This suggests a forgotten age of Pacific exploration, a web of transoceanic routes connecting islands and continents. The engineering prowess required to carve and transport the massive moai, some weighing over 80 tons, reveals a society with sophisticated communal organization and a deep understanding of leverage and physics, skills equally applicable to constructing and sailing large, ocean-going vessels. The moai gaze inland, but their creation hints at a people who mastered the sea. What profound knowledge of stars, currents, and wind patterns is locked within the undeciphered Rongorongo script? The possibility remains that these glyphs are a final, untranslated logbook of a lost seafaring age. This evidence of cultures meeting across the Pacific invites us to look for other artifacts that seem to belong to two worlds at once. Deep in the humid lowlands of ancient Mesoamerica, the Olmec civilization carved a legacy in stone and jade. Among their most intriguing artifacts are jade objects that carry an uncanny aesthetic resemblance to carvings from the other side of the world, specifically from China's Shang and Zhou dynasties. These artifacts, dated to around 1,000 years before the Common Era, depict motifs like the word jaguar with swirling patterns and symbolic forms that echo the stylized dragons and spirals found in ancient Chinese art. The jade itself, a stone of profound spiritual significance in both cultures, was worked with a shared technical precision. This striking parallel has fueled a compelling hypothesis. Could there have been a trans-Pacific exchange, a forgotten voyage where Chinese mariners brought not just goods, but artistic ideas and perhaps even symbolic systems to the shores of the Americas? The Olmecs, the so-called mother culture of Mesoamerica, are famous for their massive stone head sculptures, which themselves display features that some researchers argue are not entirely local. The possibility emerges that these master carvers were not working in total isolation. They may have integrated foreign techniques or symbolic concepts encountered through contact with visitors from across the sea. This is not to diminish the incredible originality of the Olmecs, but to suggest their world was part of a larger, more dynamic conversation. How could such a journey be possible? Ancient Chinese texts speak of legendary voyages to a land of Fusang, a description some interpret as the American West Coast. While the evidence remains circumstantial and hotly debated, it opens a fascinating door. It asks us to reconsider the map of the ancient world, not as separate hemispheres, but as a planet potentially connected by daring sailors who rode the Pacific currents. The presence of these jade objects is a quiet but persistent clue, a whisper of a connection that challenges the timeline of global exploration. From the possibility of Chinese contact in the tropical Americas, our search for a forgotten age of exploration leads us to a far colder and more definitive discovery, a Norse settlement that rewrites history. On the rugged northern tip of Newfoundland, the wind whispers through the remains of a world that should not exist. Elance Ox Meadows is not a myth or a theory, but a place of solid ground and undeniable proof. Here, the foundations of Norse longhouses, built in the unmistakable Viking style, rest beside the remains of workshops and a forge. This is the only confirmed Norse settlement in North America, a site so significant it is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure. The artifacts recovered from this soil speak a clear and simple truth. Iron nails, a bronze cloak pin, and a soapstone spindle whorl for weaving are not the belongings of later colonists. They are the everyday items of a Viking camp dating to around the year 1000, exactly the era described in the sagas of Leif Erikson. This place, whose very name evokes a meadow by a bay, was a gateway. It confirms that Norse explorers not only reached the New World but established a foothold, a base for repairing their ships and gathering resources like timber and wild grapes. Yet the settlement was occupied for only a short period, perhaps a single generation. Why was it abandoned? The answer may lie in its very purpose. Elance Orcs Meadows was likely not a permanent colony, but a strategic outpost, a hub for further exploration into the rich lands they called Vinland. Its brief life suggests a much wider network of exploration, with expeditions pushing south along the coast and perhaps even inland, leaving traces that have yet to be found. This single site rewrites the narrative, transforming the Viking sagas from epic poems into historical records. It solidifies the reality of pre-Columbian transatlantic travel, forcing us to ask how many other Norse sites lie hidden beneath the soil of North America, their stories waiting for a shovel to uncover them. From this windswept confirmation in the cold North Atlantic, our search for a forgotten age of exploration now takes a dramatic turn toward the sweltering tropics and a city that challenges the very timeline of civilization. Scattered across the lush riverbanks of Costa Rica, hundreds of massive stone spheres lie as if dropped by giants. These nearly perfect stone balls, some towering over 2 meters high, were crafted by pre-Columbian cultures around 600 years into the Common Era. Their existence in the Diquis Delta is a profound enigma. The sheer effort required to shape granite into such flawless spheres is staggering, demanding not just immense labor but a sophisticated understanding of geometry and stoneworking that seems to appear fully formed in the archaeological record. How did these cultures achieve such precision? The surfaces are so perfectly rounded that they suggest the use of complex templates and grinding techniques, a knowledge of symmetry and form that feels advanced for its time and place. This has led researchers to wonder if this skill was entirely homegrown, or if it was sparked by contact with distant seafarers who shared advanced technical concepts. The purpose of these spheres is a mystery that ignites the imagination. Were they celestial markers arranged to point toward solstices or significant stars, creating a terrestrial map of the heavens? Could they have been symbols of power and status, denoting the authority of chieftains or marking sacred ceremonial grounds? Another compelling theory posits they were navigational aids. Their placement along riverways and coastal plains might have served as a guide for travelers, both on land and for those arriving by sea, acting as silent beacons that marked safe passages or important gathering points. Their silent, imposing presence begs a question that echoes through the centuries. What message were these perfect forms meant to convey to the world and to us? They stand as a monumental puzzle, a testament to a lost chapter of human ingenuity. As we contemplate these silent stone sentinels, our search for answers pulls us toward another form of ancient record-keeping, one made not of granite but of clay. While stone spheres stand silent in the jungle, a different kind of record was being meticulously kept in the heart of the ancient Assyrian Empire. The royal Library of Ashurbanipal, unearthed in the ruins of Nineveh, was not merely a collection of clay tablets, it was a vast repository of imperial knowledge. Commissioned in the 7th century before the Common Era by King Ashurbanipal himself, this incredible archive housed thousands of cuneiform texts covering law, medicine, astronomy, and most intriguingly, the detailed accounts of Assyrian explorers. These reports describe distant trade routes, the customs of foreign peoples, and geographic features that seem to stretch beyond the known boundaries of the Mediterranean world. Some of these descriptions are so peculiar that researchers have long debated their origins, with a few daring to suggest they could be indirect, garbled references to lands across the Atlantic. The library also preserved epic literature, most famously the Epic of Gilgamesh, which recounts a great flood with striking parallels to stories found in cultures across the globe. This recurrence of a shared flood myth in so many disparate societies has often been interpreted as a cultural memory of a real cataclysmic event, but it also hints at something else, the possibility of shared exploration myths carried by ancient travelers. The very existence of this library, with its encyclopedic scope, fundamentally challenges the idea that systematic exploration was an invention of later eras. It paints a picture of a sophisticated network of information gathering, where the reports of envoys and sailors were considered state secrets of the highest value. And with thousands of its tablets still sitting in museum collections, patiently waiting for translation, one must wonder what other secrets about ancient voyages are still locked within that dried clay. This idea of a connected world where knowledge and hardship could travel together takes on a darker dimension when we examine the biological evidence written not on clay but in human remains. The silent testimony of ancient bones tells a story that medicine could not. Across several pre-Columbian European burial sites, researchers have uncovered skeletal remains bearing the unmistakable scars of syphilis, a disease long believed to have been a tragic import from the Americas after 1492. The presence of this illness in the Old World before that pivotal date forces a profound reconsideration of our global past. If syphilis was already present in Europe, its origins become a deep mystery. One compelling theory suggests the pathogen traveled across the Atlantic long before Columbus, carried by forgotten explorers or traders who bridged the two worlds. This would mean that the biological exchange between the hemispheres, a process historians call the Columbian Exchange, was not a single event but a complex series of interactions that may have occurred over centuries. The evidence is etched in bone, in specific lesions and deformities that mark the advanced stages of the disease. These are not the results of a local illness, but the clear signature of a bacterial infection that, according to our traditional timelines, should not have been there. This discovery does more than just rewrite a medical history. It paints a picture of a world where human movement, however sporadic, was capable of carrying more than just goods and ideas. It carried the invisible passengers of disease, reshaping the health of populations in ways we are only now beginning to detect. The debate among scientists continues, with some pointing to possible misdiagnosis or the evolution of a less virulent local strain. Yet the skeletal evidence remains a stubborn challenge to the old narrative. It underscores a powerful truth that archaeology can uncover hidden connections not through grand monuments, but through the subtle, scientific analysis of life's hardships. This biological clue forces us to ask what other diseases might have similar hidden histories, their origins lost to time but their marks left behind. Our search for these lost connections now turns from the evidence within human remains to the grandeur of a structure that seems to defy the very limits of its time. Deep within the humid embrace of the Mexican jungle, the Temple of the Inscriptions at Palenque rises as a monumental staircase to the stars. This masterpiece of Maya architecture is far more than a pyramid. It is a complex vessel of knowledge, its very structure aligned with celestial bodies in a way that reveals a profound understanding of the cosmos. At its heart, hidden within a secret chamber, lies the tomb of the great King Pakal. The massive, intricately carved lid of his sarcophagus has ignited one of the most enduring debates in archaeology. To some, the central figure appears not as a ruler descending into the underworld, but as a person operating a complex machine, surrounded by flames and what look like control panels, an image startlingly reminiscent of an astronaut in a spacecraft. Mainstream scholarship offers a different yet equally fascinating interpretation. they see a powerful cosmological scene depicting the king's rebirth as the maize god, falling down the world tree into the realm of the ancestors. This duality is the very essence of the mystery. The Maya worldview was not a primitive one. It was a sophisticated system where science, spirituality, and the cosmos were inextricably linked. Their ability to track planetary cycles with incredible precision, to build temples that doubled as astronomical observatories, speaks to a knowledge that would have been essential for navigating the open ocean by the stars. Could the so-called astronaut be a symbolic representation of a celestial voyager, a king not just journeying through the spiritual cosmos, but commemorating a real, physical journey across the sea? The hieroglyphic inscriptions covering the temple walls do not just record rituals and royal lineage. They tell of historical events, of battles and alliances, and perhaps of voyages to distant lands lost to our modern maps. The Temple of the Inscriptions stands as a silent witness, challenging us to expand our understanding of what the Maya were capable of. It invites us to wonder if their exploration networks stretched far beyond the jungles of Mesoamerica, reaching across oceans in a forgotten age of discovery. As we ponder the possibility of Maya travelers connecting with other continents, our search for a globally connected past finds a new kind of evidence, not carved in stone but minted in metal. A Roman coin, weathered and out of place, turns up in the soil of Texas. This is not an isolated incident. For decades, discoveries of Roman-era currency have been reported across the Americas, from a scattered hoard on a Maine beach to individual coins found far inland. These small, metallic echoes of a distant empire present a riddle that refuses to be solved. On one hand, the vast majority of these finds are easily explained as modern losses, perhaps dropped by a 20th century collector, or even deliberate hoaxes planted to create a sensation. Yet a handful of specimens have stubbornly resisted such simple dismissal. When subjected to rigorous metallurgical analysis, the composition of the metal, the pattern of its wear, and even the specific mineral crust that forms over centuries all point toward genuine antiquity. If even one of these coins is authentic, its presence on American soil forces a radical question. How did it get there? Could a Roman merchant vessel, blown wildly off course while attempting to sail the coast of Africa, have been caught in the Atlantic's powerful currents and carried across the ocean? Or is it possible that the Romans, masters of engineering and organization, launched deliberate exploratory missions into the unknown Western Sea, seeking new trade routes or resources? A single verified coin would not suggest a legion marching through the forests of New England, but rather a fleeting, perhaps tragic, point of contact. It hints at a meeting on a beach where Roman sailors, desperate and far from home, traded their last few coins for food and safe passage with indigenous peoples. This possibility reshapes the ancient world from a collection of isolated civilizations into a potentially interconnected web, where goods and ideas could travel across unimaginable distances. What other numismatic clues are still buried, waiting for a farmer's plow or an archaeologist's trowel to bring them to light? The search for these lost connections now shifts perspective dramatically, from small artifacts hidden in the earth to a colossal work of art so vast it can only be comprehended from the sky. Etched across a vast, arid plateau in Peru, the Nazca Lines remain one of the world's most captivating visual puzzles. Created over a 1,000-year period, these immense geoglyphs depict sprawling geometric shapes, as well as detailed figures of a hummingbird, a spider, and a monkey, all on a scale so grand they can only be fully appreciated from the air. The sheer precision of their execution is staggering. How did a culture without the benefit of flight design and execute such perfectly proportioned and aligned figures across miles of desert floor? The answer lies in sophisticated surveying techniques, a mastery of geometry and proportion that allowed them to scale up small models into monumental earthworks. This level of technical knowledge raises a profound question. Was this skill developed entirely in isolation, or could it have been enhanced through contact with seafaring visitors? The lines are not randomly placed. Many align with celestial events, marking solstices and pointing toward significant stars, suggesting their creators possessed a deep, practical understanding of astronomy, the very same knowledge required for navigating the open ocean. This shared scientific foundation across distant cultures hints at a possible exchange of ideas, while the theory that these lines were landing strips for ancient aircraft captures the imagination. A more grounded interpretation is that they were a profound form of ritual communication, perhaps meant for deities in the sky. Yet the possibility remains that they also served as a beacon, a monumental signal visible from great distances to guide those who knew how to read the land from an elevated perspective. Who were the master surveyors who conceived this breathtaking desert canvas? Their legacy is a silent challenge, written not on parchment but on the very skin of the earth. This search for meaning in ancient art takes us next from a sun-baked plain to the intimate darkness of a hidden cave, where a different kind of mystery awaits. Within the deep, silent darkness of the Chauvet Cave in France, the world's oldest known paintings breathe with a life that defies their 30,000 years. These are not crude sketches, but masterpieces of perspective and movement, where herds of horses and charging rhinoceroses seem to flow across the rock walls in a breathtaking display of early human genius. The sophistication of this art is a profound puzzle. How did these Paleolithic artists achieve such a dynamic understanding of their subjects, capturing the very essence of a bison's powerful gait or the subtle turn of a lion's head? One compelling theory suggests this was not just local observation, but knowledge gained through extensive travel and exploration. The artists may have been part of migratory groups that followed animal herds across vast distances, their journeys exposing them to a wide variety of landscapes and creatures, which they then translated into their sacred art. This idea of a mobile, observant people gains even more weight when we look beyond Europe. Strikingly similar motifs and techniques appear in ancient cave art on other continents, from the shamanic figures in Indonesian caves to the symbolic hand stencils found in the Americas. These parallels do not necessarily prove direct contact across oceans, but they do hint at a shared human heritage carried along the pathways of early migration. They speak of universal themes and a deep, intuitive understanding of the natural world that connected our ancestors across unimaginable distances. What stories were these first explorers trying to preserve in their flickering torchlight? They were recording their world, a world that may have been far more interconnected than we ever supposed. This evidence of shared expression pushes us to search for more tangible proof of exchange, leading us from the profound silence of a cave to the chaotic evidence of a shipwreck at the bottom of the sea. The seabed near Uluburun, Turkey, holds the broken remains of a ship that sailed over 3,300 years ago. This is not just a wreck, it is a sunken time capsule from the late Bronze Age, its hull packed with a cargo so diverse it redraws our entire map of the ancient world. The vessel carried 10 tons of copper ingots from Cyprus, alongside gleaming raw glass from the workshops of Mesopotamia and Canaan. There were ebony logs from Africa, storage jars filled with terebinth resin, and golden jewelry crafted in the Egyptian style. Even a single cup of Baltic amber suggests a trade network stretching far to the north. This single ship was a floating marketplace, a testament to a level of international commerce and cultural exchange we rarely attribute to such a distant era. The very presence of these goods all together in one place tells a story of sailors who were not merely coastal traders but true explorers, venturing across open and often treacherous waters to connect empires. They carried the essential materials of civilization: copper for bronze, glass for luxury goods linking kings and craftsmen across vast distances. This tangible evidence forces us to see antiquity not as a series of isolated kingdoms, but as a globally connected economic web. The Uluburun ship's final voyage illustrates a forgotten age of exploration driven by resource acquisition and the human desire for connection. How many other ships laden with equally surprising cargo lie undiscovered on the ocean floor, their stories silenced by the deep? This physical proof of long-forgotten trade routes makes another kind of evidence seem possible, the subtle but persistent clues of language itself. The words spoken by ancient peoples carry a map of their journeys. Linguistic researchers have uncovered a fascinating trail of evidence in the very structure of certain Native American languages, where distinct parallels with ancient Siberian tongues point toward a deep, shared past. These connections strongly support the established theory of migrations across the Bering Strait land bridge, a story written in grammar and syntax passed down through countless generations. Yet some linguists point to more specific and puzzling clues, finding lexical matches for tools, plants, and concepts that seem to hint at later, more direct trans-Pacific contacts. These are not the broad strokes of a shared ancestral language, but the sharp, specific vocabulary that might be exchanged between visiting sailors and local communities. Could Chinese or Japanese explorers have reached the western shores of the Americas, leaving behind a handful of words that were woven into the local lexicon? When we combine these subtle linguistic hints with the growing body of genetic and archaeological evidence, a much richer picture emerges. It suggests not one single migration, but multiple waves of exploration and settlement over thousands of years, a complex tapestry of human movement across the northern Pacific. This idea of a forgotten age of exploration gains profound credibility when we realize that words themselves can be artifacts, as durable as any pottery shard. They are living fossils of cultural exchange, carried across oceans and preserved in the breath of descendants. What other untold stories of ancient voyages are locked within the world's remaining indigenous languages, waiting for the right key to unlock their secrets? This search for patterns that connect us now lifts our gaze from the intricacies of human speech to the silent, majestic patterns of the stars and the structures built to track them. In the quiet German countryside, a simple ring of wooden posts stands as one of humanity's oldest classrooms. The Gosek Circle, constructed nearly 7,000 years ago, is far more than a Neolithic monument. It is a precise solar observatory. Its concentric rings and carefully aligned gates capture the rising and setting sun during the winter and summer solstices with astonishing accuracy. This means people living long before written history were meticulously tracking the sun's journey, marking the seasons with a sophistication we rarely grant them. This deep celestial knowledge was not merely for ceremony. Understanding the solstices meant understanding time itself, knowing when to plant, when to harvest, and crucially, for any group considering travel, how to navigate by the fixed points in the heavens. The Gosek Circle is not alone. From the massive stones of Stonehenge on the British plains to the intricate solar alignments of Egypt's Nabta Playa, we find the same story written in earth and stone across the globe. These separate cultures, seemingly isolated by vast distances, all looked up and saw the same cosmic clock. This shared understanding of celestial mechanics hints at a profound possibility. Could this knowledge have been carried by early explorers? The basic principles of using the sun and stars for navigation are universal, but the specific architectural similarities between some of these sites suggest something more, a potential exchange of ideas across continents through ancient, forgotten routes. The drive to map the sky was inextricably linked to the drive to map the Earth. This foundational astronomy provided the first reliable compass for both land and sea, enabling journeys that might otherwise seem impossible. The silent sentinels of Gosek remind us that the spirit of exploration is woven into our very DNA, a timeless quest to understand our place in the cosmos. This ancient knowledge of the heavens would have been useless for long-distance travel without one more crucial element, a material durable enough to build the vehicles for such journeys. Our path now leads from celestial observation to a metal that forged empires and potentially connected them across oceans. The legend of Orichalcum, a metal plateau described as gleaming like fire, long resided in the realm of myth. Yet the sea has yielded a tangible answer. A shipwreck discovered off the coast of Sicily held a cargo of mysterious metal ingots, and when scientists analyzed them, they found an alloy of copper, zinc, and charcoal, a sophisticated brass-like material that matches ancient descriptions of the fabled Orichalcum. This was not a metal found in nature, but one that had to be deliberately created through a complex and carefully controlled process. Its presence on a sunken vessel speaks of a thriving, advanced metallurgical trade, a network where this prized material was a valuable commodity shipped across the Mediterranean. While it does not prove the existence of the lost continent of Atlantis, its reality does point to the Minoans and other master seafarers of the Bronze Age as the likely source. These were cultures renowned for their maritime reach, capable of voyages that may have stretched far beyond their home waters in search of the raw materials needed for such advanced production. The creation and distribution of Orichalcum suggest a forgotten age of specialized industry and maritime exchange, where the quest for resources drove exploration into uncharted territories. If one legendary material has crossed from fable into fact, it forces us to wonder what other substances mentioned in ancient texts might be waiting for discovery. This thread of cultural connection, woven from metal and myth, finds a powerful echo in a burial site that seems to unite two distant worlds. Deep in the ancient heart of China, the undisturbed tomb of a powerful woman named Fu Hao speaks of an empire with a global reach. Unearthed at the Yingxu archaeological site, this burial from around 1200 years before the Common Era is a treasure chest of history. Lady Fu Hao was not just a royal consort, she was a military general, a high priestess, and a force of nature in her own right. Her final resting place was filled with an astonishing wealth of ritual bronze vessels, finely worked jade ornaments, and over 2,000 precious artifacts. Among the most telling finds were the oracle bones, inscribed with the earliest known form of Chinese writing. These inscriptions do more than record rituals. They detail her military campaigns against neighboring tribes and mention diplomatic missions to distant, sometimes unidentifiable lands. The sheer scale of these objects and their inscriptions reveals a civilization with sophisticated and far-flung trade and exploration networks. The presence of jade, a stone whose nearest sources were thousands of kilometers away, suggests established routes deep into Central Asia. Could Shang dynasty explorers have ventured even further, perhaps sending ships along coastal routes into the Pacific? This possibility is fueled by the uncanny stylistic similarities between some Shang bronze designs and artistic motifs found in cultures across the ocean. The Tomb of Fu Hao does not just tell the story of one remarkable individual, it opens a window onto a world in motion, a society whose political and economic ambitions stretch to the very horizon. It forces us to ask how many other royal tombs, still sealed beneath the earth, hold similar stories of forgotten diplomacy and exploration. This evidence of ancient trade networks finds a parallel in the journey of a simple plant whose presence across the world defies our historical maps. The journey of the sweet potato is a botanical mystery written across thousands of miles of open ocean. This humble root vegetable, a staple native to the highlands of South America, somehow found its way into the gardens of Polynesian islands centuries before European explorers ever charted those waters. Its presence there is no accident. Botanical studies confirm its ancient cultivation across the Pacific, and genetic analysis of historical specimens reveals a direct link to South American varieties. This is not a seed carried by wind or wave, but compelling evidence of human hands transporting a living crop across the greatest expanse of water on Earth. The implications are staggering. It points to Polynesian navigators, the most accomplished open ocean explorers of the ancient world, achieving the impossible. They would have sailed their massive double-hulled canoes eastward for weeks, guided only by the stars, the flight patterns of birds, and the subtle shifts in ocean currents, until they finally made landfall on the shores of a new world. This was not a one-way trip. The presence of the sweet potato in Polynesia means these intrepid voyagers successfully made the return journey as well, bringing back with them a precious and sustainable food source that would become deeply woven into their culture. This suggests a two-way exchange, a fleeting but profound moment of contact between the peoples of Polynesia and the Americas. It reveals a vast, informal network of exploration that spanned the Pacific, a web of routes and knowledge that connected islands and continents long before our history books say it was possible. How many other useful plants, tools, or ideas made this incredible journey, only to have their origins blurred by time? The evidence of these voyages is not just found in the soil, but potentially in the very words and symbols people used to record their world. Our penultimate discovery involves a script that remains unread, a locked door to a forgotten age of exploration. Our final discovery is a language of symbols that has kept its silence for over 4,000 years. The Indus Valley script, used by one of the world's earliest and most expansive civilizations, remains an unbroken code, found on thousands of small stone seals and pottery fragments. These elegant, pictographic characters have been uncovered not only throughout the cities of the Indus River basin, but also at archaeological sites across the Middle East. This geographic spread is a powerful clue. It tells us that merchants from the Indus Valley were not local traders. They were international explorers, their goods and the seals that authenticated them traveling vast distances to places like Mesopotamia. What message were these seals meant to carry? Some researchers theorize they were more than just names or titles. They could have contained detailed information vital for long-distance travel, perhaps encoding celestial coordinates for navigation, descriptions of trade goods, or even simplified maps of coastlines and rivers. Each tiny seal is a potential passport from a forgotten age of exploration, a data storage device for a sophisticated mercantile network that connected continents. The frustration of not being able to read them is profound. We hold in our hands the direct records of these ancient travelers, yet their stories remain just beyond our grasp. Were they logging the currents of the Indian Ocean? Were they describing the strange and wonderful lands they encountered? The script's very existence and its wide distribution paint a picture of a society built on communication across incredible frontiers, a civilization that looked outward to the horizon. The enduring mystery of the Indus Valley script brings our journey to a close, but it also opens a far larger door. When we step back and look at all 25 discoveries together, from the Antikythera Mechanism to these unread seals, a new and breathtaking pattern emerges. We are not looking at a series of isolated anomalies or lucky accidents. We are looking at the scattered pieces of a single, grander story. This evidence, woven from gears and glyphs, from plants and human remains, suggests that our planet was not a collection of isolated worlds until 500 years ago. It was a place of recurring connection, a stage for multiple ages of exploration that rose and fell with the tides of time. These forgotten explorers, whether Polynesian, Norse, Egyptian, or Indus Valley merchants, did not have our modern maps, but they possessed something equally powerful, an insatiable curiosity and a profound understanding of the natural world that allowed them to traverse oceans and continents. Their achievements were not always sustained, their knowledge was often lost, but their journeys happened. This collective evidence challenges us to rethink a fundamental question. What does it mean to be first, History, as we have written it, often credits the individual who arrives and whose story is preserved. But these discoveries suggest that discovery is not a single event. It is a process, a cycle repeated across millennia. The true first discoverers may be peoples whose names we will never know, whose ships rotted away long ago, but whose legacy is written in the artifacts they left behind and the biological traces they inadvertently carried with them. Our past is far richer, more interconnected, and more mysterious than we ever dreamed. The map of human history is not complete, and every new find reminds us that the greatest adventures are still buried, waiting to be rediscovered. These 25 discoveries are not merely isolated curiosities. When we step back and view them as a whole, a breathtaking pattern emerges from the noise of the centuries. The Antikythera Mechanism's intricate gears, the sweet potato's journey across the Pacific, and the silent testimony of ancient bones all whisper the same story. They challenge the long-held belief that human civilizations developed in isolation, separated by impassable oceans until a specific moment in the 15th century. Instead, they paint a picture of a world punctuated by contact, a planet where the spirit of exploration flared up again and again across different eras and cultures. This is not a fringe idea but a serious scholarly debate. Some researchers urge caution, pointing out that an artifact out of place does not always mean a voyage across the sea. They remind us that evidence can be misinterpreted and that independent invention is a powerful force in human history. Yet, another growing body of thought sees something more profound, a web of faint but undeniable threads connecting ancient worlds. They argue that the cumulative weight of this evidence is simply too great to ignore. It suggests that our ancestors were far more mobile, far more curious, and far more capable than we have given them credit for. This grand reinterpretation invites us to see human history not as a series of separate timelines, but as a single, intricate tapestry. In this new tapestry, the loom of discovery was operated by many hands across millennia. A Polynesian navigator reading the stars and a Norse sailor battling the North Atlantic swell were part of the same timeless human endeavor. They were driven by the same irrepressible curiosity and ingenuity that pushes us to explore the depths of space today. This fundamentally reshapes our identity as a global species. It suggests that the desire to cross the next horizon, to meet the other, and to share knowledge is woven into our very nature. Our past was not a lonely journey but a chorus of interconnected voices, many of which we are only just beginning to hear. We have traversed continents and centuries together, uncovering 25 distinct archaeological discoveries that collectively point toward a forgotten age of exploration. From the Viking longhouses at El Ants Orcs Meadows to the trans-Pacific journey of the sweet potato, these findings weave a compelling narrative. They tell us that our world was connected by ancient seafarers, traders, and innovators in ways our history books are only beginning to acknowledge. This evidence reminds us that history is not a fixed timeline but a fluid and surprising story, constantly rewritten by the persistent curiosity of those who dare to look closer. These revelations do more than just reshape our past, they inspire us to keep exploring. They encourage us to question the known and to venture into the unknown, whether that is in the depths of an archive, the heart of a jungle, or the vastness of space. The greatest discoveries often lie just beyond the edge of the map, waiting for a curious mind to uncover them. What mysteries will we solve next? I would love to hear which of these discoveries resonated most with you in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into history's deepest mysteries, subscribing will ensure you do not miss our next adventure. Remember, the past is not a closed book, but an open ocean, and we have only just begun to sail its waters.